What's up, guys? It is the Great Death Sentence here, and today we're going to be doing a video about in the defense of noob saibot. So this is going to be, I guess you could say, a defensive video. A lot of people, well, not a lot of people, but I would say people are a bit divided on noob saibot's current take in Mortal Kombat, his latest iteration of Mortal Kombat 1. I, however, am a huge fan. Not a lot of people like it. I mean, it's more like a 50-50 split. Either you do like it or you don't like it. It's not universally hated, I would say. But I guess I'm here to defend. I'm on a noob saibot side of things, where I really like this version of noob saibot. So I'm basically gonna defend him against the very minimal haters he has. Anyway, we're gonna talk about noob saibot as a character behind Sub-Zero, who is an extension of that character, and talk about his origin in a timeline or previous timelines, and talk about why he's way better than he ever was, that he was back in the day. So without further ado, let's begin. So the first thing we're gonna talk about is Sub-Zero mythologies, and this is where this whole kind of, I wouldn't say misconception, because he was slightly more noble at this time. But I'm going to talk about why what people want from noob saibot nowadays is just fucking stupid. But yeah, Sub-Zero mythologies is his origin story. And what we know about him is that he was a typical ninja. He was a Lin Kuei assassin. He assassinated targets, and he followed orders to a T. He has some problems with how the Lin Kuei run things. After all, no matter if he was alive or he was dead, he probably wouldn't agree with the Cyber Initiative, but he's still a ruthless clan ninja. However, his actions, he ends up being manipulated by Quan Chi and Shinnok to, basically doom Earthrealm. But it's crazy because the Lin Kuei was against Earthrealm in the Mortal Kombat tournament. They were on Shang Tsung's side. So the Lin Kuei was literally fighting to conquer their own realm. And it's not surprising because they were willing to pretty much turn themselves into something that's pretty much not human. They were all willing to become robot cyborgs, to further their goals of achieving ultimate power. So this is basically what Sub-Zero is basically fighting for, and it's completely fine with. So he wasn't too much of a good guy back in the original timeline. Again, he was slightly more noble. He saved Serena. He could have killed her, but he saved her instead. You know what I mean? This is where that little ship came from. This was the only game these two had a moment, and that was it. It's a real shame these two didn't get together in the, in further timelines. This was the only timeline where they, I guess, didn't really get together, but had a moment, I guess you could say. And you know what I mean? So he ruthlessly killed Scorpion. You know what I mean? Like, he was just a very ruthless man while he was alive, being Sub-Zero. And while he does work with Raiden to get the amulet back to save Earthrealm, in the next tournament he's fighting, like I said, he's fighting against to destroy Earthrealm. So since he's fighting to destroy Earthrealm, he's pretty much a bad guy. And eventually he gets defeated by Scorpion. Now, despite being kind of a villain, he was innocent of this little crime. He didn't kill the Shiryu, or at least, he didn't kill Hanzo's family. It was actually Quan Chi pretending to be him. So even though he was kind of a villain, he does die, as an innocent man being killed by Scorpion. He was innocent of that crime in particular. So he gets killed, and then Quan Chi resurrects him, and then he becomes noob saibot. And from here on then, he pretty much gets fucking destroyed. He shows up, has a lot of aura, says some cool lines, and gets basically fucking destroyed. He's a worser version of Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z, because he doesn't even get any character development after that. He pretty much just becomes a full villain at that point. And he has interesting goals, but he never accomplishes or even comes close to accomplishing any of them. He's never been the main villain up until now, and he's never really had much focus. His origin and his sole purpose is to become Sub-Zero, die, become noob saibot, and then die some more. So he's never really done anything substantial as noob saibot, like, at all. Even in his endings, he never does anything substantial. You know what I mean? His ultimate goal is to basically create a shadow realm of ninjas, become the most powerful, and basically rule, over the universal rule over the planet, or whatever. Basically make sure the Lin Kuei is above and stands above all, which is, standard typical villain shit. But he never comes close to accomplishing this shit. The point is, though, This is how he was being written for years. Now, a lot of people wanted him to have a Darth Vader type of storyline because, like I said, he is slightly written to be a little bit more noble in the previous timeline. You know what I mean? When Raiden tells him there's darkness in his heart, he gets stunned and becomes unnerving because he's just been a warrior ninja at this point. This means that he probably didn't really kill any innocent people while he was alive, just killed, you know, warrior type of targets, I'm assuming. And he probably wasn't planning on doing any too many villain shit. But we know for a fact it's changed because, again, in the tournament, he's pretty much full evil now. And we don't know much about him in Sub-Zero mythology, you know what I mean? We don't know his goals, doesn't have any ambitions. He's just pretty much content with just being a ninja and doing what he's told. So we don't know much about Bi-Han, aside from he's conflicted about certain shit. But yeah, he didn't really have much of a character in Sub-Zero mythologies. He was just pretty much just going with the flow. And he didn't really have a character arc either. Like I said, he was conflicted, and then he pretty much should have switched around, but he wasn't conflicted no more. He just fully joined evil at that point and then got killed. So that's pretty much all we knew about behind Sub-Zero. And yes, he was a villain because he was literally trying to destroy Earthrealm. Because, like I said, every time the Lin enters the tournament, they are always on Shang Tsung's side. This means that if they win, then Liquid will be on the side of Outworld, and then Earthrealm will be fucking destroyed. So yeah, Bi-Han was pretty much always evil. But anyway, the point is, when he was killed by Scorpion, people wanted him to have some type of, you know, redemption arc. In a rebooted timeline of Mortal Kombat 9, it's mentioned that he actually defended Earthrealm at a certain point, and even Raiden gives some slight respect after his death. So at least we know for a fact that in Mortal Kombat 9, I guess you could say maybe he was kind of a good guy. And it's kind of weird because even though he's still on the side of fucking Shang Tsung, it's told that he was defending Earthrealm. Like I said, the Mortal Kombat 9's tournament is just really fucking stupid, with teams fighting against teams. So their content, like Mortal Kombat 9 story mode, is just really shitty, as most Mortal Kombat story modes are. But this is probably the shit in terms of its continuity, because the people on our own teams fight against each other, even when it comes to the good guys. But yeah, we'll just say for the sake of argument, he was slightly more noble. So anyway, with that out of the way, we're here to talk about his transformation into Noob Saibot. Now, he's very similar to Scorpion. Both were human, both were somewhat noble when they were alive, and then both were ultimately betrayed and killed. Sub-Zero was killed over a lie, and Scorpion was basically killed over the lie as well. So they both succumbed to lies and, you know, murdered, and eventually they both get resurrected as demons. But there is one big difference between the two, aside from slight alterations in the story. Scorpion eventually becomes a good guy at some point. It takes years, and you know, there are times where he just stays in the villain side, but nowadays Scorpion is pretty much a full-time good guy. So Scorpion's story is that he was tricked by Quan Chi into killing an innocent man for the most part. Eventually, he figures out that Quan Chi is the one who actually killed his family. He decides to get revenge, and you know, after getting his revenge on Quan Chi, he pretty much decides to join the good guy side and tries to redeem himself for all of the shit he did as, you know, as Scorpion, and you know, becomes human and has an awesome character arc, and then rebuilds Shiraibu and, you know, all the other shit. A pretty cool, awesome, complex, awesome villain to hero story. And so people basically want the same justice for Noob Saibot. The main complaint I hear about, and again, we're here to talk about the new version of Noob Saibot, not the old timeline, but people were hoping that since he didn't really have much character to begin with, even as Sub-Zero, when he became Noob Saibot, he was pretty much just a bad guy that got his ass kicked all the fucking time. And he never came close to accomplishing his goals. He had a sick design, but he didn't do much in the story mode, aside from having some cool fights, and, you know, also one-liners, and, you know, awesome ambition, but again, he's just, again, his power, the main problem for him in the old timeline is that he just had a very weak power level, and he got defeated by pretty much anybody. He was free food for everybody, as fighters that didn't would say. But anyway, in the new timeline, Sub-Zero actually has character, and we actually know more about him as, you know, Sub-Zero. And how people wanted Noob to be written in you know, the new timeline was to basically be Scorpion. Like, I'll just say it. They basically wanted Noob to be Scorpion. Now, one of the differences, a big difference between Scorpion and Noob Saibot is that Scorpion was never evil to begin with. You know what I mean? He was an awesome ninja. He was a clan. He was an assassin, and he always fought on the side of Earthrealm. His life got taken away by rival enemy ninjas. His child, his wife, all of them was killed, and then his soul got twisted into warping to Quan Chi, and then Quan Chi made him an evil specter and made him do a lot of fucked up shit. But eventually he breaks free from it, defeats Quan Chi, and decides to become a good guy and wants to repent for him. So it's a classic villain hero story, and those stories never get old. It's good. I like it, and I hope it stays that way. But Noob Saibot, when he becomes a demon, he stays evil, like permanently. Like even when Quan Chi dies and he has nobody controlling him, he still stays on the villain side. He sides with Kronika, he sided with Shao Kahn, and even when he was a ninja, he sided with Shang Tsung. When he was a demon, he just wanted to get his own realm and make an army that rules over the realms. Basically, he didn't want to be shackled. He wanted to obtain all power. He was willing to work with anybody and probably stab them in the back after he was done to become this ultimate ninja, powerful ruler. He always was like that. Even in the old time, like he always wanted his own clan to basically shatter the realms, and his ending in Mortal Kombat 9, he became the leader of, he worked with Harry to become leader of the Chaos Realm. He became, he created his own realm called the Shadow Realm. Like he always wanted to create his own clan and rule over everything, basically just be a ninja version of Shao Kahn, as most Mortal Kombat villains do. So yeah, he always wanted the Lin Kuei to basically stand overall, even as Noob Saibot. And this is the reason why I think his character is kind of misinterpreted. Sub-Zero wasn't a ninja that got, tragically betrayed and then forced to become an evil specter. Him being an evil specter, his ambitions were just fully unlocked after that. He wasn't like Scorpion, where, he was this, I guess you could say, manipulated. Even after his creator dies, he's still on doing some evil shit. So really this just says that Bi-Han was always an evil, ambitious ninja. You know what I mean? And I think it should stay this way. I don't really want him to have a redemption arc where he realizes the error of his ways, because like I said, he was never really a good guy to begin with. He was just a ruthless assassin ninja, and when he becomes Noob Saibot, and he doesn't have any masters, he wants to be his own master, he wants to be his own boss, and he wants the Lin Kuei to stand overall. That's what he always wanted, and we know this for a fact because again, Quan Chi dies, so nobody, when we get to Mortal Kombat 11, nobody is controlling him. Aside from his look and appearance, he's pretty much just the same guy with the same soul. He has 0 people influencing him, and he still chooses the bad side. So this just confirms to me anyway that I think that's what they were trying to tell us. This is why he's black to begin. This is gonna sound racist as fuck, but this is why he's a black outfitted ninja. It's supposed to represent how dark and twisted his soul always was. So this is how Bi-Han has been written consistently, and honestly, it should stay this way. Like Bi-Han shouldn't have a redemption arc, because if he did, then he would basically just be Scorpion, honestly. Like he would literally just be Scorpion verbatim. A ninja that gets betrayed, is forced to serve an evil master, breaks free, and decides to, redeem himself for all the shit he did while he was under the service of Quan Chi. You're basically asking for a second version of Scorpion, and we don't need that. I think this take on Bi-Han is more interesting, and I think he was really always written to be this way. In all of the previous timelines, Quan Chi is long dead and he still joins the evil side. Meanwhile, with Scorpion, usually when Quan Chi dies, Scorpion either decides to become a good guy, or even when Scorpion stays bad, it's always for revenge. Such as, he would have been a good guy. So, take Mortal Kombat Armageddon, for example. Scorpion was tripping in that game, but he would have been a good guy if the Elder Gods didn't fuck up his family. Basically, Scorpion wants to kill the Elder Gods and destroy all of existence, because the Elder Gods promised to bring back his clan, but they brought them back as like zombie ninjas. So pretty justifiably so, Scorpion gets pissed and wants to kill the Elder Gods. So even when Quan Chi is gone, you can tell Quan Chi's influence and nothing to do. has nothing to do with Scorpion here. Like, Scorpion would choose good if, you know, he had a better life and shit. But Bihan has never been betrayed to be like that. He was always an evil asshole, and him being Noob Saibot, he just became closer to being his more demonic evil. So that's just it. Basically, Noob Saibot is basically his true form. Just the evil, demented demon black ninja. Oh man, that sounded so wrong, but you know what I mean. So yeah, I really like this take on Noob Saibot, and I think he should stay this way. Like I said, I don't want him to have a redemption arc. I don't want him to be just a neutral warrior that, you know, sometimes that basically wants to defend the realms, but in his own twisted way. I don't want that shit, honestly. I like him being just, you know, a brutal, evil ninja, being cold, ruthless, calculating, just being a true ninja, savage, evil warrior. Like I said, I think he should be written this way. And now we're gonna talk about, you know, him in Mortal Kombat 1 and talk about why him in Mortal Kombat 1 is a massive fucking improvement. Now the story has problems, and I'm gonna talk about my problems with, you know, Sub-Zero Mortal Kombat 1, even though I really like this take on his character. So we're gonna compare him to the previous timeline. So this version of Bihan is basically already Noob Saibot, but you know, he's already a villain, and the story mode shows you that. So we know that he doesn't Bihan doesn't like to take control orders from anybody. He's the leader of the Lin Kuei, but he still has to take orders from Liu Kang. He wants to break free from Liu Kang's control, and he wants the Liu Kang to, you know, he wants the Lin Kuei to be basically the most powerful, dominant clan leader. He doesn't seek to protect the realms because he sides with people who wants to destroy it, you know, like he did in the original fucking timeline. And he basically wants his, you know, it kind of like, he's basically like a Saiyan, you know, he's like King Vegeta. How King Vegeta wanted the Saiyans to be the strongest, you know, race in all of the realms, and wanted to be the strongest ever. He wants the Lin Kuei to be the strongest and, you know, basically rule Earth from under with an iron fist. He's basically a dictator, and that's how it should be written. Bihan should not be a tragic ninja. That's what separates him from Scorpion. That again, he was just evil to begin with, and he stayed evil. And you know, there's no tragic, you know, sad backstory here. It's just Bihan being an evil asshole and Kuang having to come to terms with that. You can make that be the tragic part about him, but have Kuang, you can have the revelation being that Kuang realizes that Bihan was never corrupted. He was always like that. But yeah, I really like this take on Sub-Zero. Now, the only thing I don't like about this, I more so like his character arc of Sub-Zero. I like him as Noob Saibot. The only thing I don't like is that Havoc is the reason he becomes Noob Saibot. But I don't mind it too much because him and Havoc have, you know, worked together in the past and shit. So I don't mind it too much as I minded back in the day. I would have preferred if it was Quan Chi making him Noob Saibot, because, you know, him using the powers of chaos doesn't fit him. I mean, he's a fucking ninja, for crying out loud. So chaos and brute force really shouldn't really fit him. He should be, you know, very sleek and, you know, move like a true ninja and have powers similar to a ninja, which he does in his gameplay. But, you know, still, it's a minor nitpick. But again, I don't mind him. I don't mind his transformation to Noob Saibot, and I really like this take, you know, on Bihan. I think it's accurate, and I think it's very fitting to his character. And, you know, the reason why I don't want him to be written like that is because, like I said, we already have this story arc. And if you want this type of character, then just go ahead and look at Scorpion. But if you want a traditional evil ninja villain, that's what Bihan is basically supposed to be. And I really like it because he was actually a main threat. Noob Saibot has won a fight. Noob Saibot has never won a fight in the 20 plus years he has existed. But in this game, he actually wins a fight and becomes close to being the main villain. I hope, you know, Mortal Kombat 2, while they're obviously hyping up Onaga to be the villain of the next game, and hopefully he becomes a villain in the next game, I hope Noob Saibot becomes kind of like a second villain boss, where he gains ultimate power and he has to be defeated by like maybe Liu Kang or Raiden or Kuang Yang or something like that. I really like how they wrote the Shura Ryu. I'm not a big fan of Kuang Yang being Scorpion, and I might make a video about that. But yeah, the point is, I really like this version of Noob Saibot. I feel like Noob Saibot's character is misinterpreted as kind of being similar to Scorpion, because him and Scorpion have a lot of similarities. But the one difference they have is that, like I said, Hanzo is one of those villains that, you know, because of the bad because of his circumstances, that's why he turned evil, because he was taken advantage of. But noob saibot is different. He was always like that, and when he, at some point got betrayed and killed, it just emboldened, shit that was already there. And like I said, I think it should stay this way, you know what I mean? Sometimes we don't need a pussy-ass villain that has a bad childhood and is trying to take his frustrations out on everybody. Sometimes we just need a traditional villain who owns it, who is evil to begin with, he's honest about it. Those villains are honestly more cool to me. But yeah, that's basically all I wanted to say. I just wanted to basically make a video defending noob saibot. I love, and I mean absolutely fucking love, this version of noob saibot. I love him. And I just think the complaints he gets are just very stupid. Like I said, the main thing I see is that people want a redemption arc for him. But like I said, you're basically just asking for Scorpion, and we already have Scorpion in his timeline. And I'm not gonna lie, if this ever got adapted into a movie one day, maybe you could do something like that. Like I said, if he did have a redemption arc where he was the actual noble ninja but got turned evil later, maybe it could work. But for the video games, fuck no. And like I said, I really wouldn't want that for him. I don't think it would work in the way people expecting, because again, he would basically just be Scorpion word for word, bar for bar. Like literally, you're literally just asking for Scorpion. So him just being evil to begin with, and then him just becoming more evil and twisted as time goes on, which is why his body morphs into a dark black soulless, not soulless ninja, but a very menaceful ninja, an evil ninja. Then yeah, I think this is what separates him from Scorpion and makes him cooler in some aspects. It makes his character a lot more cooler. Unlike the many characters corrupted by Quan Chi, Bi-Han was corrupt to begin with, and he didn't have much of a character in Sub-Zero mythology. Like I said, we don't know much about him aside from he's just a traditional ninja just doing what he's told, and he almost destroyed the world, so he decided to stop doing that, because even though he's an evil bastard, he wouldn't go that far, because he's not a destroyer. He wants to rule shit, not destroy it completely. But yeah, there's nothing more I could say. The point is, his version of noob saibot is fucking cool. I can't wait to see what they do with him. Hopefully he stays a villain. You bastards you soft ass bastards might actually get your wish. They might go the redemption route. I kind of hope I kind of don't want them to, because again, that's basically just another version of Scorpion, and I don't want another Darth Vader. I want Bi-Han to stay this way. I think it makes him unique. I think you should want him to stay because it makes him unique and it makes him super cool. But yeah, that's basically all I wanted to say. Alright, this is all I wanted to say, and Dev Sentence out.